A couple weeks ago, I posted this video on Instagram with the challenge of finding the errors in the interview between Ronaldo and this dude. In this lesson, you're going to have the chance to watch the clip again, try and find the errors, and then we'll go over each error and make the necessary corrections. So here we go. Your challenge is: how many errors does Ronaldo make in his 15-second response to this guy's question?
How do you get on with Lionel Messi now? I heard you say that you're a little bit closer, you're a bit more relaxed together. You used to see him just as a rival, now you see him more as a human being.
I don't have rivals, We have a normal relationship. We share this stage there in FIFA 8 years.
Yeah.
No one's did that in the past. It's only us. Yeah. So it's good. I have a good relationship with him. He played for one club, I play for another club. He won the best for him, I won the best for me.
Did you catch any errors? How many? I counted 7, just like his jersey number. So for a 15-second response, that's almost 1 error every 2 seconds. Aww. Sorry, man. Before we look at each error and make the corrections, let's make sure that we completely understand the question. So here it is again with subtitles.
How do you get on with Lionel Messi now? I heard you say that you're a little bit closer, you're a bit more relaxed together. You used to see him just as a rival, now you see him more as a human being.
So he's asking about his current relationship with Messi. And he uses the phrasal verb get on. How do you get on with Messi? Get on means to perform or make progress in a specified way. Let's get on with the lesson, meaning let's continue and make progress and move forward. But also, in the UK, get on means to have a friendly relationship. You're not going to hear this usage in the States. If you ask somebody in the States how they get on with someone, they might look at you kind of crazy. So let me ask you a question. What's another phrasal verb that we could use in place of get on and still have the same meaning? Another phrasal verb that means to have a friendly relationship with someone. Get along. That's what I'd use to ask this question. He also says, you used to see him as a rival. Remember, I made this post on Instagram about used to, which can be both an adjective and a modal verb. And in this case, he's using it as a modal verb, which is used to express habitual or accustomed actions in states that happened in the past but don't anymore. For example, if someone says, I used to work out every day and eat healthy food, we know that now, at the present time, this person doesn't exercise nor eat healthy food. He doesn't need to say, a couple of years ago, there was a period of my life in which I used to exercise and eat right, but things have been a little different. It's not necessary. The use of the modal verb used to tells us that right now, in the present, he doesn't work out and he doesn't eat right. So in regard to Ronaldo and Messi, the interviewer is implying that maybe in the past, they only saw each other as rivals. But now, they might not be best buddies, but at the very least, they get along. Okay, so let's watch Ronaldo's response with subtitles. If you already know all the errors and you just want to skip straight to the corrections, go to this time.
I don't have rivals, We have a normal relationship. We share this stage there in FIFA 8 years.
Yeah.
No one's did that in the past. It's only us. Yeah. So it's good. I have a good relationship with him. He played for one club, I play for another club. He won the best for him, I won the best for me.
Okay, so let's get to these corrections. And the first one is simple. Real quick, before we start. If you haven't found the errors and you want to take a second and try and find them and make the correction on your own, just pause the video for a second and then restart it when you're ready for the explanation. So like I said, the first one was a basic error. He didn't use an article when he needed to. Relationship is a singular countable noun, so we need an article. We have a relationship, we have a bad relationship, we have a crazy relationship, and in this case, we have a normal relationship. Now with this next sentence, Ronaldo got a little crazy and he made a couple errors. So I counted this as error number 2 and number 3. He said, we share this stage here in FIFA 8 years. So he's talking about something that started in the past and continues into the present. And that is one of the principal uses for the present perfect tense. We use the present perfect when we want to talk about unfinished actions that started in the past and continue to the present. For example, I've known Karen since 1994. I met her in 94, and right now it's 2018, and I still know her. So to talk about all that time in one sentence, we need the present perfect tense. I've known her since 1994. Or, she's lived in London for 3 years. 3 years ago, she moved to London. And right now, at the present moment, she lives in London. She has lived in London for 3 years. One thing I want to point out real quick. Contractions are a way of life and super important when learning and speaking English. But they can be a little tricky. In the example sentence we just looked at, it says she's. And when we pull that contraction apart, it's she has. But just a heads up, and you probably already know, she's can also be she is. She's from Colombia. So he's talking about something that started in the past and has continued until the present moment. And we'll just define the moment when they first started sharing the stage together as their first match in 2007. And he's talking about the period of time since that first match in 2015 in this interview, which is in the present because that's when this interview took place. So, to talk about right now, we use the present. And to talk about a match in 2007, we use the past. But to talk about all this time together that started in 2007 and continues up until right now, the present, we need the present perfect. So to correct Ronaldo's sentence, we have shared or we've shared this stage in FIFA. And now we need the proper preposition to set up the time. So you tell me, what is it? For or since? For 8 years. We use since with a fixed time period, like a year or a date or even another action. Since 2004, since April 23rd, since I was young. And we use for with a period of time. For 2 hours, for 3 years, for 6 months. So the final correction is, we've shared this stage in FIFA for 8 years. Now, this next correction is where it gets a little tricky. He said, no one's did that in the past, only us. So technically, because he says in the past, and he's already using the simple past tense of the verb do by saying did, the only mistake he made was making the indefinite pronoun no one plural. No one, which means not a single person, is singular, and it doesn't have any sort of plural form, so you can't throw an S on there. So if we weren't worried about the context of the conversation and we were only focusing on the sentence and making the correction, we could just cross off the S and we're all good. But context is important because he's talking about the complete history of FIFA up until this moment. Again, we need the present perfect tense. So we can keep the S and add an apostrophe to make the contraction of no one has. No one's. No one has. Then get rid of did and add the past participle done because this is the present perfect and not the past simple. So we need a past participle. And the last thing we'll do is cross out in the past and add a time expression that fits the present perfect. In this case, before works perfectly. So the final correction is, no one's done that before, only us. Now, before we move on to the final corrections, let me ask you a question. Would you like to see a full lesson on the present perfect tense? I know it can be super confusing, but it's so important and so useful. So let me know if you'd like me to make a complete, lengthy lesson explaining everything about the present perfect tense. Now, does this look familiar or what? So he made the same error twice. We just need an article. Ronaldo, looks like you need a couple lessons on articles, buddy. And to finish, he made another error 2 different times. Remember, when we are speaking in the simple present tense and using the pronouns he, she, and it, With regular verbs, we need to add an S, ES, or IES, depending on how the verb ends. And in this case, just like in the majority of cases, we need to add an S. He plays. He wants. So the final correction is, he plays for one club, I play for another club. He wants the best for him, I want the best for me. I just want to make it clear before we finish. I'm not picking on or making fun of Ronaldo for making errors when speaking. Errors are a part of learning. I have made and will continue to make errors in my second language. That's just part of it. That's part of the process, part of learning and getting better. And I don't think we should be too worried about old Ronaldo. He's doing just fine. So that's the end of this lesson. Please, as always, let me know what you think. Would you like to see another lesson like this? Thank you so much for your feedback and support.